The question that I have is, could you talk about the classification of planar trusses? A planar truss can be classified into a simple truss, compound truss, or a complex truss. So let's start with the simple truss. How do we construct a simple truss? You construct a simple truss by starting with a triangle and adding two members and one join until done. Say we use three members and come up with a triangle like this. Now we expand it by adding member M1, member M2 and join J. Now we keep doing this by following this rule, ending up with this truss right here. This truss is a simple truss. So what's the big deal about a simple truss? Well, simple trusses are always stable. Remember in another video we talked about 4 different ways in which a truss can be unstable. Well, a simple truss will not run into any of those situations and therefore will remain stable. Here's another example of a simple truss. We did follow this rule in arriving at this truss. There is one fundamental difference between this truss and this truss, which is that in this truss, right, all of these regions are triangles, right? Whereas in this truss, this is a triangle, but this is a trapezoid, right? So even though in both cases we started with a triangle, it doesn't mean that the final truss will consist only of triangles. This is not a requirement. So as long as you follow these rules, you will end up with simple trusses. And these trusses are stable. Now let's talk about a compound truss. A compound truss is constructed by combining simple trusses. There are two ways to do this. Let's talk about this first method. Here is a simple truss and here is another one. We got this compound truss by combining these two simple trusses by a common join and a bar. You can see this compound is another simple truss, right? Here's another way to do it. Here's a simple truss and here is a second one, right? We are combining the two through these three bars, M1, M2 and M3. It turns out that in the second method, you might end up having an unstable truss if you are not careful. As an example, this is an unstable truss. In this truss, these three bars have been constructed in such a way that they meet at a common point. If this is the case, the truss is unstable. Remember in the video on stability, we talked about one situation where the support reactions are concurrent, leading to an unstable truss. So what we have here is very similar to that. For example, if I section these three bars at these points, right, and take the internal truss out of here and draw a free body diagram for it, right, the forces on these bars become kind of like the supports for this internal truss. If I take a moment about this point for that internal truss, the free body of that internal truss, right, the forces on these members will not make a contribution to that moment equation, right? But we could have external forces acting at these joints like E, F, and D that will correspond to a certain moment, but these forces on these bars are not helping in counterbalancing that moment. And therefore the truss becomes unstable. Nevertheless, this is one of the methods of constructing a compound truss. Finally, let's talk about a complex truss. A complex truss is one that is neither a simple truss nor a compound truss. Here's an example of a complex truss. So we will not consider the analysis of a complex truss in this course. In this course, we are basically introducing trusses, and as such, we will stick to statically determinate simple trusses.